Hi and welcome to Cars and Coffee Stories. Today we are in Los Angeles at Auto Conduct. Next to me is John. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
John has a real race car over here. Let's talk more about it.
This is a 1962 356B Porsche. It's been a racer since the 80s. The car was imported from New Zealand where it was rallied in 2009. And the current owner, Rob Curry, commissioned me to prepare it for racing in Mexico. So this car is a veteran of the Carrera Panamericana, the Mexican road race. And it's actually finished well over the years. We have 2 first place victories, a couple of seconds, and one DNF. I guess I didn't build the motor well enough one year, and it left on day 2. So,
What means DNF?
did not finish. It's a racing term. So a DNF is like the last thing you ever want to have on your logbook. You want to see some podiums, right? She's purpose-built for racing in Mexico, so everything's reinforced underneath. It's Porsche parts, but we've modified them to make them stronger. It has a 100-liter gas tank, so fueling isn't an issue. So with 100 liters, we can pretty much do a full session. We can do a full session of racing with a 100-liter tank, and then we just top off for second, for the rest of the day. So it takes a little bit of effort out of the race day. But the car is all hand-built. All the little things you see were kind of, cobbled together in the shop. We had to make certain things different. Everything's very light. So this is all plexiglass. It's just sliders.
Yeah, it's all plexiglass.
And then you have to have a removable wheel to get in and out of the car because it's kind of tight. But it's all built to FIA spec, which is the governing entity that sanctions the La Carrera. So the roll cage, the fire system, and everything with the restraints and seats is FIA regulated. And but it's just very simple. We took what Porsche did and then we just worked with those confines. It has a pretty stout roll cage. We made a removable back window because we have to have a spare. And there's no room for the spare in the trunk, so the spare is actually mounted in against the roll cage. So if you need to use a spare, you just pull the pins. The back window comes out. You have access to the spare fuel, the tools, and the spare tire if you need it. La Carrera, you have to bring these things with you. It's part of the regulations. During the race, your crew is not allowed to do repairs on the car unless it's a scheduled pit. So the pilot and co-pilot, if they have a problem with the car, they have tools.
They have to fix it by themselves.
Yep. So it's old school. It's kind of cool.
So the driver has to be a mechanic.
Somewhat. I mean, it's not always true, but it helps. There's other races like Peking to Paris, similar situation. You're out quite a bit, and things can go wrong. So you want to be able to at least fix basic things.
How is people's reaction when you drive in Mexico?
Well,
you are going on the road, right?
It's whether you're driving or you're in the centro in Mexico before or after the race, the people love it. I mean, the whole city comes out to watch. So it's a spectacle. It's almost like you're a gladiator, and you're exiting the stadium, and all the fans are there to greet you, and they want you to hold their baby, and they want you to do autographs. So it's kind of fun. So this is a Type 4. It's a Volkswagen derivative that Porsche borrowed for the 914. It's used in buses and all kinds of other cars. And this one's modified, of course, has a 911 style fan shroud and fan. And then we have our throttle articulated through this bracket. I wanted to mimic the factory bracket that's on a 356, so we just found the mounting points and put them in space. That way a lot of factory parts work, because this is all factory stuff. Normally it would be hidden or mounted on a shroud, but it's just floating in space. I thought it's light and it works, and I like that. These are Mexican mods. The car gets broken in Mexico sometimes, or weird accidents happen. So this year, the overflow, or not the overflow, but the breather system. The breather system was overwhelmed. When you're at 7,000 RPM, you get a lot of blow-by. So we made this out of stuff that we bought at Mexican hardware stores and auto parts stores during the race. And I have yet to correct it, because the car came back and then it kind of goes into storage, and then we ramp up a few months before and we'll go back and address these issues. But this is my favorite 2017 mod right here. So Rob Curry stopped for break with Ricky, and people want to take pictures. He had checked the oil like he does during the stops, and some people walked up and wanted to take a picture. So they posed for the picture, and then Ricky, the co-pilot, says, "We got to go. We got to be on grid." So they jump in the car and go. Well, the oil cap is now somewhere in Mexico. So they came in after their speed sections, and there was oil everywhere. I mean, just everywhere. So we had to go to a Home Depot and buy parts and make this beautiful hose and PVC. So that's how we finished the race. So I haven't got to fix any of this yet. It's pretty much as it was when we left Mexico. So a lot of the teams run a very high shroud. There's different versions of this, but CSP Germany, they have this low profile shroud system, and it gives us a lot more room. There's 911 parts in here. So this is a CD box and CD coil that you would normally find in a Porsche 911 from the 70s. When you have a really good race in Mexico, you're pretty much just checking the oil and the pressure on the tires and a few torque checks here and there, and then you're able to just have a nice experience. But other years we have technical difficulties, maybe the braking system's malfunctioning, or we're not even at a race. And this morning on the way here, I noticed something weird with the ignition system. Well, there's something wrong with the alternator. The internal regulator's doing weird stuff. We're going over voltage, so the car is very angry at me right now. So after this event, we're going to take it back to the garage. I'm going to look and see what's going on. But it's always something. La Carrera Panamericana is a race that was first conducted in 1950 by Mexico to celebrate the opening of the Pan American Highway, which connected Tierra del Fuego all the way to North America into the United States. So this is a big deal because they had this. It's a major highway. It was like their Autobahn, but this road that connected all of the Americas. And for 4 years, the best in the business, whether it was manufacturers or drivers, participated in this world-renowned race. Unfortunately, it's very dangerous, and a lot of drivers and a lot of really expensive cars were destroyed. And so it just ceased to exist in '54. That was it. And then I believe the rebirth was 1989. So in '89 they brought it back, and it's stayed to this day. And you never know how long it's going to be around, but it's a wonderful, wonderful race. I mean, I can't even explain it. It's an incredible traveling circus that's built around vintage sports cars. This is pretty much how it was after the race. The only thing that's missing from the car right now is the dirt and beer.
Where's the beer coming from?
Well, when the crowd knows, at the very end of the race, there's a big celebration. I mean, it's a celebration every night, but at the end of the race, whichever town we're in, it's a huge party. And we end up parked on these narrow streets usually, or in a square. But there's still a funneling where you're in a gauntlet. And as you go through the gauntlet, people are, like this little window here, there's champagne and beer just flying in your face. and they're covering the car. Usually Rob and Ricky are, waving to everybody, and Ricky will be sitting on the fender, and everyone wants to take pictures and hang out, but it's an event. It's an event.
What do you think of today's cars? Especially today's Porsche.
Well, look, I like cars. Ultimately I'm a Porsche guy, but I drive a Chevy every day. I've had just about every kind of car you can imagine, and I have an affinity for air-cooled, vintage air-cooled. Porsche for me is where it's at. Newer Porsches, I get to drive them and I like them, but it's not necessarily something that I do. I really like vintage Porsche. I mean, the feel, it's more visceral, you're more connected. I don't want an automated car. I don't want an electronic connection between me and the car. When you're driving this, you're very connected. And this thing has probably, oh my goodness, like negative camber, probably 2.5 degrees, 3 degrees in the front. It feels every pebble and groove in the road.
What about autonomous driving?
Well, I mean, what else are manufacturers and designers of the future going to do for us? I mean, for me, driving and making love are equally important, and if I have a machine making love for me, then why even be alive?